Welcome back for round two. This is the Recovery Guy in the special broadcast. This is number 2 of 3 with my dear friend Slow Will. Once again, as you know, we got together September 9th, 2016 to see Sammy Hagar in the Circle in Quapaw, Oklahoma. And I'm still dreaming of that concert. Sammy just killed it that day. And so we got together, though, Will and I didn't want to miss the opportunity with him. So in this episode podcast, we are talking about the Big Book and key Big Book phrases and how we incorporate them into our lives. And so enjoy the wisdom of Slow Will, and we look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. So have a sip of tea, enjoy yourself, and let me know what you think, and we'll see you next time. Well, welcome back. This is Robert again, and as usual, what am I, Will?
Happy, grateful, recovered alcoholic.
I am back in studio today with my dear friend, Slow Will, and I had him say it because he's the one I stole that from years ago. And I remember, Will, I first heard you say that, and it almost pissed me off, because I thought, who does this arrogant SOB, that's back in the day when I thought, I could do this whole thing better. You remember those days? And I picked the speakers apart. But you know, the more I thought about that and realized everything you were telling me on being, matter of fact, even in one of my video segments, I break it down, because I expect people, especially once they know how long guys like you and me have been around, I expect you to expect me to be happy, joyous, and free, to be an example of the promises. Don't you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I started out when I was new in the program, I wasn't happy. I wasn't very grateful, and I sure as hell wasn't recovered.
Yeah.
You know, and then as I got into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, by the time I moved to Vegas, I had started working the steps the way they're laid out in the Big Book.
Right.
And that's where I became, Slow Will, a happy, grateful, recovered alcoholic. And the reason that I was, I was happy was I was basically just happy to be alive.
Yeah.
And be able to feel alive. And I was grateful for all of the stuff that I had and all of the stuff that I didn't have. People say, well, I got to the program because I lost a house and I lost a job and I lost a wife and I lost a business. When I was out there drinking and using, I never lost anything. I gave it away for the privileges of drinking and using drugs. Wow. I gave it away. If I was to go out drinking and using drugs today, I may as well say, okay, Bob, you can have my new truck. I'm giving my friend Dave my motorcycle. Whoever wants my wife can have her, That's just the way I would have to do things, because for me to go out drinking and using again today, I'd just have to give it all away.
Yeah.
So I'm happy, I'm grateful, and the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous is the one that has instilled in my brain that I am recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body because of working the 12 steps the way they're laid out in the Big Book.
Well, between Will and me, and this is all to the glory of God in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and as Will says, the plan of recovery that's laid out in the first 164 pages. Between Will and me, we have over 68 years of sobriety. Will's coming up on 38, and I just celebrated 31. And the great thing about that is we know countless people who have a same amount of time or even more time than him or I. And so whether or not this thing works, it has already been proven to us, through us, as well as other people we know, which means if it works for us, it can work for you. One of the things, Will, when I first came in and started coming around you and going to some of the meetings that you attended and were a part of, there were always certain things that you said in the meetings that you wanted to make sure newcomers like me understood. So I'm just going to go through a couple couple of those things that I've written down and just have you talk on them and why you found it necessary to not only make it a part of your life, but the hope that I would make it a part of mine. So some of these things will be a little random, but I wrote them down randomly, so we'll just go through them one day, one message at a time. One of the things that I always remembered, we've already covered the happy, joyous, and free. You would always make sure that I understood that God insisted that we insist on enjoying life. Why was that so important for you that I understood that?
Well, because when I got to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, I was beat down. I was living in a travel trailer in my mom's driveway. I wasn't allowed in her house. I wasn't enjoying life very much. And I was young. I was 25 years old. I got to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and, it was like people had told me to get the big book and told me to read the big book, and back then I don't know if it's on the cover still, but back then on the third edition, the paper cover in the little corner of the bottom right side, it says, "This is the basic text for Alcoholics Anonymous." When I grew up and I was going to school and they gave me a textbook, they said, "Study this. This is your math problems. Work the math problems, and then utilize the math." But I wasn't told to analyze any of that until later in life, but to study it and utilize it. And that's what I was told to do with textbooks. So that's what I did with the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, because it was given to me as my basic text by my first sponsor. And when I took that textbook, he says, "Read it and utilize it. Don't analyze it." And by utilizing and finding stuff in there where it says, we are sure that God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. And that's in the middle of page 132. He wants me to be happy. He doesn't want me to be stupid, boring, and glum. He wants me to have fun and enjoy life. So by reading the big book and finding that in there, and my sponsor instilling it in me, when something strikes out at you, highlight it or write it on a separate piece of paper and use it as a bookmark so you can pull it out and you can read it. And I utilized the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous for the last 37 years. And by utilizing the program, my life gets better.
Yeah. It does, doesn't it? We are not a glum lot.
No, we're not. If you walked into an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting and you saw a bunch of people sitting around the table going, "Oh man, life is miserable. I think I'll go eat some rat poison and, shoot myself, and, that'll take care of this situation because I'm pissed off at my boss and my wife's treating me like hell and the kids won't do what I tell them to." If you walked into a meeting like that, are you coming back tomorrow?
Oh, no.
No. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous gives us a way to live to where we don't have to turn around and be that person. We don't have to if I go to a meeting like that, I'm gonna do what I can to bring a little bit of laughter into somebody's life, or I'm going to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Because, I'm not a glum person today.
I think in that area of pages 132 and 133, where it says, is something to the effect of, sometimes we'll burst into merriment over a seemingly tragic situation. It says, but why shouldn't we laugh? For we have recovered.
Right.
Normally you would think people to be pretty morbid if they were, especially some of the things you hear in the meetings, and all of a sudden, but I laughed because I thought, dang, I can relate to that, or boy, I'm glad I didn't get that far down the road.
And that's why in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, when newcomers come into the meeting, we tell them we're laughing with you, not at you.
Yeah.
Because we don't laugh at people's problems. We laugh with them because they found the solution. They found the answer to their problems. You know, the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, if you go from page 132, and this is all from the third edition that I was raised on.
Yeah.
If you go from page 132 in the third edition to page 133, it talks about, God doesn't create trouble in our lives.
Right.
We do.
We manufacture our own misery.
If problems, if misery does come in our lives, we cheerfully capitalize on it to demonstrate His omnipotence, is what the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous says. And that's to show that He's all powerful. He can handle everything. So why don't I let Him?
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore. I'm not in charge. Somebody, don't know what her name was, but she did a real good song not too many years ago called "Jesus Take the Wheel."
Oh yeah, Carrie Underwood.
Yeah. Well, what I had to do in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous is I had to drop back and just let God take over.
Yeah.
Okay, God, you're driving, you're flying this plane, you're running this boat, whatever it is I happen to be in. Well, I happen to be in the little chariot called Alcoholics Anonymous. And they told me early in the program, get into the program. Don't get on the program. Mm-hmm. You get on the program, you hit a bump, you're going to fall off. You get in the program, you hit a bump, you might bounce around a little bit, but you're going to stay in there.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Now, it says, if newcomers could see, and you touched on it a little bit, but if newcomers could see no joy in our existence, you say that you're happy, joyous, and free. We say that we want newcomers to see that joy in us, because we knew we were lacking joy. We were a glum lot when we were out there. We're not when we get in there. But if newcomers could see no joy in our existence, they wouldn't want it.
They wouldn't. And that's why I still do stuff today that I've done all throughout my sobriety. We had out here in Branson, Missouri, where I live, we had a kayaking trip down the James River. It was a 6-mile trip. And there was 3 newcomers at the meeting that were interested in going but didn't have the money. It's $10 a person to go. And you got lunch halfway down the river. They gave you a sack lunch. I came out of pocket and I paid for 3 people to go. And I said, dude, you're covered. You're going. It's 40 people in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous tipping each other over, going down the river, and we had a blast.
Yeah.
And I took my wife, who's not in the program. I took my 14-year-old, who's not in the program, and they got to see an example of what people do in sobriety to have fun.
Yeah.
Because you've got to have fun in life.
Yes.
If you ain't having fun, you're either going to be dead or locked up in a nut ward.
My life didn't end when I got to AA.
It started.
It just began.
Yeah.
And 30 some years later, 31, a little bit over, I was, April 25th of this year, 1986 was 31 years. And, 31 years later, Will, I think my life is still just beginning, because the more I know, the more I know what I don't know. And I know a lot, which tells me that I don't know very much.
I find that I remember more as I get so. My wife says, "You remember so much." I said, I had 14 years there that I don't remember a bunch.
Yeah.
From the time I got, before I went into the Marine Corps till the time I got sober, there's a big span that I don't have a bunch of memory.
Yeah.
But I started living when I got to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yes.
I started dying when I started taking drinks.
Yeah.
And from the time I started taking drinks till the time I quit drinking, when I quit drinking, I quit dying.
Yeah.
And get into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is a program for living and enjoying life.
We believe that this way of living could have benefit for all.
Yeah, and I didn't expect expect to make it to 62 years of age.
Yeah. Hopefully you'll make it to 72.
Well, I'm hoping.
Well, thanks again for the time today, Will. I appreciate it. Things like happy, grateful, recovered. We are sure that God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. We insist on enjoying life. We are not a glum lot. If newcomers could see no joy in our existence, they wouldn't want it. All of these things, again, Will, thank you. All of these things that we discussed today, I carry with me today because you made sure when I was a newcomer that I remembered those things because you knew they were lacking in me just like those things were lacking in you. So thanks for being with me today.
And just remember, they all come from the big book.
That's right. So if anyone has a problem with it, who's their problem with?
Their problems with themselves, not with us.
And that's a relief.
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks again. Y'all have a great day, and we look forward to chatting with you soon. And remember, this is Robert, and I am the recovery guy, and I am a
happy, grateful, recovered alcoholic. Slow Will.
There you go. Take care.